As Ananda Vrindavan very eloquently put it, we're here because Srila Prabhupada brought us here. Srila Prabhupada brought us here on the order of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to bring us to Krishna. I hadn't heard this message from 1969, but I'll share with all of you the very same message. This I heard from Satsvarup Maharaj when Prabhupada gave his first public kirtan at Tompkins Square Park. There's a little history of how that happened, but there they were for 3 hours, 2 to 5 p.m. Maybe you've seen the photograph, the East Village Other, although Prabhupada said it was New York Times, it was East Village Other, with the church in the background and the elm tree, and Prabhupada was underneath the elm tree, standing there looking very stoic, very contemplative. And the way it was narrated to me is the audience was wondering, what is this person? They've never seen a Swāmī before. What's he going to say? And what he said was the same thing that he said to the reporter in 1969. I've not come to teach you something new, I've come to remind you of that which you have forgotten. Same. Prabhupada was quite consistent and persistent, and for decades continued to give that same gift to the world. And he did so. Here, I'm going to show you a nice painting. There's details and details you can't see so well unless you examine the painting closely. But there are faces. They're not just anonymous faces. It appears that the artist was depicting disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta with different features, facial features, and some were wearing turbans and some this and that. So at his feet, Bhaktisiddhanta obviously is physically much, much, much bigger than everybody else. And Vyasa-san is similarly suited for him. And there's Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, giving their blessings upon the halo that's behind Bhaktisiddhanta as he's giving the mudra of giving transcendental knowledge to remind them of what they had forgotten. So let us recite together the 4 prana mantras. They're going to appear on the screen in just a moment to offer our respects to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Together. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshapadavi Devi Dayataya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhuryojvala Premadhya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Notice in these last 2 of the prana mantras, Rupanuga is there twice. Rupa Anuga, the follower of Rupa Goswami, as are we, followers of Rupa Goswami, because all those in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are followers of Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami has written many books, and one of those most prominent, prestigious, important books is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And Srila Prabhupada made a summary study. Once Prabhupada said, summary study means I can write what I want. But he just made it pablamized or very easily accessible to his audience, which was the world, not just scholars or deeply devoted Vaishnavas, but the world, to introduce them to Rupa Goswami's teachings. So in Nectar Devotion, this is just an introduction of the Rupa Nuga message. In Nectar Devotion, chapter 13, Prabhupada titles the chapter 5 Potent Forms of Devotional Service. And I've extracted some sections from that chapter. Here's the beginning. Rupa Goswami has stated that 5 kinds of devotional service, namely residing in Mathura, worshipping the deity of the Lord, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, serving a devotee, and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, are so potent that a small attachment for any one of these 5 items can arouse devotional ecstasy even in a neophyte. So some of us are neophyte. And even the idea of devotional ecstasy, which means bhava bhakti, that's like so far away. However, these 5 are so potent that with a small attachment for any one of them. So our attempt this weekend is to strengthen that small attachment, or to remind us of what we have forgotten, because our original home is with Krishna. And in that same chapter 13, Prabhupada writes specifically about this number residing in Mathura. Srila Rupa Goswami has described Mathura Mandala. I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Jamuna River, so beautiful amid the Kadamba trees where many birds are chirping in the gardens. And these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization of beauty and bliss. This feeling about Mathura Mandala and Vrindavan, described by Rupa Goswami, can actually be felt by non-devotees. Anyone who goes there will never want to return to this material world. So let's go. But just in case you can't go, what do? You hear. And that's what we're attempting to do. We'll go, as Nanda Vrindavan said, make a journey to Vrindavan by sound. It's kind of a sound bath. Immersion in sound. Just a little sharing. The co-speaker isn't with us this evening because he has some back pain, but he said he's going to be watching virtually, live, whatever it is. And we were considering what would be a nice topic. And wait till you hear him speak, because he loves Vrindavan very much. I've learned that from his association with him. I love the Bhagavatam very much, and he loves Vrindavan very much, and so we make a good team. So it was somehow Vrindavan. He had this idea, that idea. So this is what we came up, personalities from Vrindavan. So his personalities are places, but they're also personalities. River Jamuna, Govardhan Hill. The transcendental Vrindavan Dham is all personal. So there's a total of 7 discussions, some an hour and a half, some 2 hours, times 7. That's immersion. So we're not in Vrindavan, but let's go to Vrindavan by sound. And later in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, here's a very nice phrase, where Rupa Goswami writes, one should always live in Vrindavan, in Vraja. Kuryat vasam praje sada. Kuryat vasam praje sada. Now this is the very first verse that's after completing the sadhana bhakti, he's now going to discuss raganuga sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, raganuga sadhana bhakti. And this is the first item in the first verse. One should always live in Vraja. Jiva Goswami comments, if possible, one should live physically in the places where Krishna lives, such as Vrindavan. If one cannot do that, then the person should live there mentally. We're on the path of Rupa Goswami. And by the way, the path of Rupa Goswami is the path of Lord Chaitanya. And the path of Lord Chaitanya is to give freely prema. But there's a small adjective, Braja prema. He came to freely give Braja prema, and Braja prema requires, it's an essential aspect, is this. It's the Raga Nuga Sadhana Bhakti. He's going to explain this in in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Here's Vishwanath's commentary, almost the same. If possible, one should physically live in Vrindavan, the place where Krishna resided as Nanda's son. If one cannot do that, one should live there mentally. Now, how do you live there mentally? How do you do anything mentally? It's resting upon sound, and you hear and hear again, and hear again, and hear again, and hear again, and you remember that which you have forgotten. And that remembering place is the mind. So we hear again and hear again. So 7 times an hour and a half or 2 hours. Hear again and hear again. And that we're moving in the direction, by design, we're moving in the direction of fulfilling this instruction, living there mentally, residing in Vrindavan, our real home. So as she said, fasten your seatbelts. And off we go. The journey to Vrindavan through sound vibration. I chose, first of all, to speak about Balaram. Now there's so many personalities one can speak about in Krishna's Vraja Līlā, but always by his side is Balaram. And here's what Prabhupada writes about Balaram in Krishna book. In chapter 2 of Krishna book, the demigods are offering prayers to Krishna while he's still within the womb of Devaki. That's chapter 2 of Krishna book. And Prabhupada writes, one cannot attain the supreme platform of self-realization without being sufficiently favored by Balaram. Bala does not mean physical strength. One must have the spiritual strength, which is infused by Balaram or Sankarshana. So what is Sankarshana? What is who is Sankarshana? Sankarshana is the first expansion of Balaram, or plenary expansion of Balaram, Sankarshana. We'll hear some more as we're going along. This, by the way, this is a little section on Balarama Tattva. Now when we say Balaram, what does that mean? It can mean different things to people who don't really know, but following our acharyas, let's find out what our acharyas say. And one of our great acharyas is Jiva Goswami, and he's written in Krishna Sandarbha that first the Purusha manifestation, the Purusha avatar, Sankarshan, entered into the womb of Rohini. We're going to hear next who's Rohini. But Rohini is the mother of Balaram, Rohini Nandana. He is the son of Rohini. So Rohini, as the mother of Balaram, Sankarshan in his Purusha expansion entered into her womb. Next, then the original form of Sankarshan called Mula Sankarshan. Notice the distinction? There's the expansion and there's the original from which the expansion comes. And the original, or Mula Sankarshan, is Balaram. And Balaram entered into the womb of Devaki. So now we have two Balarams. One in the womb of Rohini and one in the womb of Devaki. Then, within Rohini's womb, Purusha Sankarshan and Balaram joined to become a single Balaram. I'm looking around the room to see if people are looking puzzled. Nobody's looking puzzled. That's good. Because as Balaram or Mula Sankarshan can expand, that Mula Sankarshan and the expansion of Mula Sankarshan can become again one entity. No problem. So that's what happened. And in this way, Balaram Sankarshan appeared. Now let's hear a little bit more. In the first line we hear about Rohini. And so one of Balaram's names is Rohini Nandana. And Rohini was one of 18 wives. Vasudeva had many wives. And they all didn't come at once. 7 of them came at once, headed by Devaki. She had 6 sisters. But then that 7, there's another 10. And Rohini was from that other 10. Let's go forward. Rohini married Vasudeva, who had 17 additional wives. After 3 months of pregnancy, Rohini was sent by Vasudeva to Gokul, because Rohini, was with Vasudeva, and she was sent after 3 months of pregnancy to Gokul to be with his dear friend and trusted associate Nanda. So Rohini went. Then the 7th child of Devaki was Balaram, who was transferred to Rohini's womb before his birth. Right? No one's looking puzzled so far. Then Balaram, have you ever wondered? I've always wondered, but I found the answer. Balaram's appearance day is how many days before Krishna's appearance day? Short number of days. Balaram Purnima, and then Krishna appears in Ashtami. 8 days after Balaram's appearance. So how did that happen? And the answer is Balaram stayed in the womb of Rohini for 14 months. Mama Rohini must have been uncomfortable. But he was waiting for Krishna to come. Now, this is still Balarama Tattva. Let's hear something further on Balarama Tattva. And then we'll hear more about his activities and his relationships and his dealings, his Līlā. In almost all circumstances, it's confirmed that Vasudeva had 18 wives. There's another place where Prabhupada writes differently. I don't mind controversy. We're going to go there. But let's go to the 18 wives part. In Canto 1, Chapter 11, in his purport, Prabhupada writes, Vasudeva, the father of Lord Krishna, had completely separate residential quarters where he lived with his 18 wives. This is in Mathura. In the next purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Vasudeva actually had 18 wives. Now let's go to much later, chapter 84, of Canto 10, which is, there's the circumstance of the solar eclipse, and devotees from all over the country, including Brijbasis, left Vrindavan and went to Kurukshetra, and Krishna was there too, in residence of Dwarka and so on. The verse reads, after Vasudeva's eyes had been decorated with black cosmetic and his body smeared with fresh butter, the priests initiated him according to scriptural rules by sprinkling him and his 18 wives with sacred water. Now, I'm making a point of this because elsewhere it says something else. Here's some details found in the previous canto 9. 7 of these wives, including Devaki, were sisters. They were daughters of Devaka, and the senior most was Devaki. And Devaka was one of 2 sons of his father, Ahuka, and Devaka had a brother, and his brother's name was Ugrasena. And so, what does this mean? Ugrasena had a son who was Kamsa. So often we say sister, but that's just conventional. Cousins in Vedic culture were sometimes considered brother-sister. I'm seeing some people looking puzzled. Many times, if you've heard Prabhupada speak in recorded lectures, he would often say, Arjuna was reluctant to kill his brothers, but they were cousins. But cousins were often considered brothers. It's part of the culture. Cousins were considered brothers. Not blood brothers, but cousin brothers. So Devaki and Kamsa were not brother-sister, but they were brother-sister. They were cousins. Clear? Now no one's looking. Okay. The remainder of Vasudeva's 11 wives came from other parents. And here's some information. This is a little bit later in the same chapter, Canto 9, Chapter 24. Here's a partial list of the 11. Devaki, Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madhira, Rochana, and Līlā, and others. Now, Devaki's name is in this list, but she was from the 7 sisters from the previous list. And they were all wives of Anakundundubi, who's another name for Vasudeva. Among them all, Devaki was the chief. That's directly a verse in Canto 9, Chapter 24. So now, notice it's a different color, this word Pauravi. Make sure your seatbelts are on. We're going to hit some bumpy air right now. Here's Prabhupada writing in the purport of Canto 3, Chapter 1. Lord Krishna's father, Vasudeva, had 16 wives. It's 18 wives, but he says 16. And one of them, named Pauravi or Rohini, the mother of Baladeva, was the sister of Vidura. Now, wait a minute. I don't have an explanation, but I'm going to tell you what I don't have an explanation for. And that is, there are 3 brothers, Dhritarashtra, Pandu, and Vidura. We don't hear anything about a sister. But here Prabhupada is introducing a sister. So don't ask me, because the answer is I don't know. But Prabhupada is saying it explicitly. Vasudeva, therefore, was the husband of Vidura's sister, and thus they were brothers-in-law. Now, maybe it means, maybe It could mean cousin, sister. We just did that one, right? You caught it? Sometimes cousins are called brothers and sister, although they're not brother and sister. Here's the next sentence in Prabhupada's purport. Vasudeva's sister, Kunti, was the wife of Pandu, Vidura's elder brother, and in that sense also Vasudeva was brother-in-law to Vidura. So it's not just that kind of brother, but brother and sister, Vidura, and one of the wives of Vasudeva. And 16 wives, not 18. This is Prabhupada's purport. This is not connected directly to Balarama Tattva, but it's Kunti was younger than Vasudeva, and it was the duty of the elder brother to treat younger sisters as daughters. Whenever anything was needed by Kunti, it was munificently delivered by Vasudeva due to his great love for his younger sister. Vasudeva never dissatisfied his wives, and at the same time he supplied the objects desired by his sister. He had special attention for Kunti because she became a widow at an early age. So the younger sister relationship and the widow and the elder brother relationship, he was very affectionate to Kunti naturally. Okay. Now we're going to go to Chaitanya Charitamrita. And I'll say it, and then you'll see the verse. According to Chaitanya Charitamrita, this Mula Sankarshan, remember that one? The original, the root, Mula means root. The Mula Sankarshan or Balaram has 5 expansions. And one of those expansions, we heard, one of those expansions entered into the womb of Rohini, and that's the plenary expansion of Sankarshan. Yes? Good. So here's what Chaitanya Charitamrita writes. Balaram is the Mula Sankarshan, and from him there's 5. Sankarshan, Sheshanag, and the Vishnu Sulai, and the Karna ocean, Garbha ocean, and ocean of milk are his plenary portions, and the portions of his plenary portions. What's a portion of a plenary portion anyway? The Vishnu forms, they are functioning in this created realm. So they don't manifest the fullness of Sankarshan in the spiritual world because they're dealing with the material world. Sankarshan doesn't deal with the material world. He's fully dealing with the spiritual world, as is Sheshanag. So those are plenary portions. And then the Vishnu forms has another term, Angsa and Kala. Angsa means plenary. And Kala means a portion of a plenary portion. If you're not following the terminology, it's quite okay. But some people like to have some clarity with this terminology, so I'm trying to lay it out for all of you. Our topic is Balaram, and we're going to get to Vrindavan real soon. Don't worry. In Jiva Goswami's writing, Gopal Champu, there's the Purva Champu, or the first part, and he writes, the appearance of all the objects in Vraja takes place in every kalpa. Kalpa means day of Brahma. Krishna appears every day of Brahma once, and when Krishna appears, all the paraphernalia appears, directly descending from the spiritual world. Balaram has that responsibility. He manifests all this paraphernalia. Since Vraja is free from the touch of the bodies and minds of materialists, since it is filled with kadamba trees profusely glorified in the Varaha Purana, and since it is the abode of pastimes of eternal blissful Balaram, cows and cow herds, described profusely in the Padma Purana and Skanda Purana, and since Vrindavan has special powers beyond the material realm, Vraja is unlimited. That means everything within Vraja is also unlimited. Although it may seem to have boundaries or, shapes of things. So as we go along, and you're going to hear, from Amarendra as well as myself, different features of Vrindavan, let us remember, Vrindavan is unlimited. And here's some explanation why. When he writes this, Jiva Goswami can't help himself. Sometimes Krishna and Balaram hold hands, laugh, and make others laugh. This agitates my heart. And so when we see nice paintings or depictions of Krishna and Balaram's activities together, maybe it will agitate your hearts by the time we're done. In Sanatana Goswami's writing, this is Rupa Goswami's writing, he describes the form of Balaram. I take shelter of Baladev, enemy of Pralamba. On the edge of his cheek dangles one earring. Notice, on his left cheek. The lotuses decorating his ears are covered with bees. His tilak is made of musk. On his broad chest shines a gunja berry necklace. His complexion is as white as an autumn cloud. His cloth is blue. His voice is deep, and his arms hang down to his knees. I think this artist needed to make Balaram with longer arms. But his arms went down to his knees. And in Rupa Goswami's writings, Lagu Bhagavatamrita, he's describing, among other things, the Līlā avatars, and he there compares Balaram's complexion to white as camphor. And he is always dressed in garments dark as a rain cloud. So that's a little background on Balarama Tattva. And so the two lords, because we often hear Balaram is non-different than Krishna except his complexion. One is blackish, the other is whitish. There's another distinction. Balaram likes to serve. And Krishna loves Balaram and allows him to serve. At the same time, Balaram is the elder brother. And as their Līlā unfolds through their, not growing, but their pastimes on earth, the assertion of Balaram becomes more prominent as the elder brother. Now, who's the elder brother by 8 days? But how much elder is Lord Ram compared to the others, his other brothers? 1 day? And then another 2 days, but he's the elder brother. And they all looked up to him. So it's not just, it's this culture, but it's also the Supreme Personality of Godhead is being looked up to by Balaram. So many, many nice paintings. They enjoyed their activities with one another in their childhood pastimes. It's described in Krishna book or in 10th canto. When they were very small, they learned how to crawl. And when they learned how to crawl, they were very mischievous. So one of the things they like to do is they like to go into the pasturing ground and pull on the tails of the cows. And when the cows felt their tails being pulled, they started to run. And Krishna and Balaram would hold on to the tails and go for a ride. And they were having fun. And some of the gopis were laughing. And some of the gopis were very terrified. Oh, he might be hurt. He is stimulating their love while stimulating the love of the cows and enjoying loving pastimes with one another. Now, children of this world may do mischievous things. And that's just an imitation or reflection of the transcendentalness of Krishna Balaram. I'm looking at these two boys in the front, they're kind of giggling. Like, I guess it's cool to be mischievous, right? But, you got to become Krishna first, and that's never going to happen, so don't. But anyway, part of their mischief is celebrated pastime, of course, is the stealing makhan, stealing butter. And there we see, there's Balaram right in it with him. And they're effulgent, so they could see what they were doing in a dark storage room. There's the gopis in the background watching them. Now, the relationship between Krishna and Balaram and the other cowherd boys is described in detail in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Commonly, we know that's Sakya Rasa, or friendship. Rupa Goswami also likes this word Preyo Bhakti Rasa, along with Sakya Rasa. And there's divisions amongst the friends of Krishna, and Balaram is in the category of Suhrit, indicating that he's older. And so sometimes he would assert that being the older brother. I mean, it happened certainly in Dwarka, but even in their childhood, lesser degree in childhood, but he would assert it. One of the celebrated pastimes where he asserted it was, as we see in the painting, he accused Krishna of eating dirt. And Mother Jasoda took it seriously because Balaram loves Krishna very much. And why is he going to say something bad about one he loves very much? So she took it seriously as the elder brother. Now, some of you may think Krishna didn't eat dirt. Some of you may think that Krishna ate dirt. And there's different ways of looking at the same thing. And our acharyas seem to like the idea that he ate dirt. But the main is the Līlā of Balaram accusing Krishna of some wrongdoing purposefully. And the purposefulness was so that Mother Jasoda would chastise him. Our acharyas describe when Krishna was stealing butter, it wasn't the same. So he had to do something where she would really chastise him. He ate dirt. So then she had to get on his case, and then he could do what he did, show the universe within his mouth. Here's some detail about the mood of the cowherd boys, or the Preyo Bhakti Rasa. In Preyo Rasa, or Sakya Rasa, in which Krishna and the devotee, the cowherd boys, partake of the sweetness of one type of love, this nourishes astonishing bliss in their heart. Now, you can see at the heading at the top, there's 3 verses. That's one. So the cowherd boys feel this is the best of all rasas. Here's why. Rupa Goswami explains. In Priti Rasa, which is he uses interchangeably with Dasya, and Vatsalya, Krishna and the devotees' love are of different types. So Krishna's love for the servants and Krishna's love for the parents are of different types. For this reason, those devoted to Sakya Rasa understand that this Sakya Rasa is the best of all rasas. Now, someone else out there might feel, well, variety is nice. And the cowherd boys think, because they're like equals, and they have a profound love for Krishna, as cowherd boys, as boys love one another, and particularly their love for Krishna. So they feel this is the best. That's Rupa Goswami's explanation. They feel this is the best. And naturally they feel, because they're not envious or wishing they could be somebody else or doing something else. Maybe it'd be nice to be a gopi, or maybe nice to be a parent. They don't. That's not. They're very happy and they're feeling this is the best. So this is Rupa Goswami's explanation. Now we have an explanation that comes from one of the great commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam, Ramya Kachit Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Ya Kalpita. You know this one. There is no conception of worship better than that which was conceived by the damsels of Vraja. This is this statement, Vrajavadhu Vargena. Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena. Ya Kalpita is the best. The worship of the gopis for Krishna is the best. Now this statement is a statement by a commentator on the Bhagavatam who was a disciple of Advaita Acharya. And the verse that follows this is the view of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu viewed that the love of the gopis is the best. The cowherd boys say, this is the best. Being a cowherd boy is the best. They don't want anything else. They're very happy. Here's some further description of Krishna's friendships in Vrindavan. The friends in Vraja suffer from not seeing Krishna even for a moment. They play with him at all times, and their very life depends on Krishna. For this reason, they are considered the chief amongst friends, meaning there's friends of Krishna outside of Vrindavan, like Krishna and Arjuna, Sakya. They're friends. But the friendship within Vrindavan is superlative of all the types of friends that exist in rasas with Krishna. Jiva Goswami comments, this is a verse from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Krishna awarded the cowherd boys his association, being controlled by his own prema for them. Now, they were controlled by Krishna, and Krishna was controlled by his prema for them. It's otherworldly. The Supreme Controller is controlled by his prema for them. And that's controlled by their prema for him. He loved the cows, he loved the cowherd boys, and for that matter, everything in Vrindavan is a festival of love. And we're focusing now on Balaram. Jiva Goswami writes, when Balaram and the other boys saw that Krishna had been devoured by the gigantic duck, Bakasura, they became almost unconscious, like senses without life. So Bakasura, everyone knows Bakasura. Here he is. He's one of the demons that was sent by Kamsa to finish Krishna. And Krishna was very kind. He allowed Baka to place Krishna in his beak. He had a big beak. But he didn't let him go past his throat. And when the cowherd boys saw Krishna in the beak of Bakasura, they fainted, including Balaram. He couldn't bear it. Now, Balaram is omniscient, like Krishna is omniscient. So he knew that there's no difficulty that's going to come to Krishna. Yet, at the same time, Krishna was allowing Balaram to experience a certain ecstasy. Krishna's in danger. He fainted, as if unconscious. And then Krishna, seeing his cowherd boys and Balaram becoming unconscious, he stepped out of the beak of Bakasura and bifurcated the beak of Bakasura. Notice there's Balaram pointing at Bakasura, get him. And Krishna did. Now, this is Balaram and his loving exchanges with Krishna in Vrindavan. Many of you know the pastime where Krishna allowed Brahma to kidnap the calves and the cowherd boys. And then Krishna manifested equal forms of the calves and cowherd boys. And this happened for 1 whole year. And during that 1 whole year, Balaram didn't know. We'll get there quickly. Balaram didn't go with Krishna that day. When the Aghasura demon was killed and the calves and the cowherd boys were kidnapped, Balaram wasn't there. Why wasn't Balaram there? We'll hear shortly. It's because it was not his birthday, but the moon was passing through his birth star or constellation, and because of that, they stayed home because he had a special festival. So Balarama wasn't there. And then the cowherd boys came back, but those cowherd boys that came back weren't cowherd boys, they were Krishna. And Balaram didn't know, although he's omniscient. So how's that possible? Krishna made the arrangement by his Yogamaya potency that for 1 whole year, Balaram didn't know what's going on. And then when he saw what the scene that you see here in this painting, what's described is, one day, the calves were at the bottom of the hill because Krishna is still taking care of the calves. He's not yet taking care of the cows. And they're taking care of the calves at the bottom of Govardhan Hill, and the cows are at the top of Govardhan Hill. And the cows see their calves at the bottom of Govardhan Hill. So they start galloping. You ever seen a cow run? Cows can run. It looks really funny, but they can run. And the cows started running down the hill to be with their calves, because the calves, it's Krishna. And the cowherd man saw the cows running down the hill, so they got their sticks and they were going to have the cows stop. But as they got to the bottom of the hill, they saw their sons, who were Krishna, and they forgot everything. They just embraced, as you see, they just embraced their son. And the calves were with the cows were with their calves, who were Krishna. And Balaram was amazed, like, what's this? And so Krishna started to pull back the curtain of Yogamaya so he could see 1 year later. And he asked Krishna, is this what's going on? Krishna just smiled. Again, in Rupa Goswami's writings, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he makes reference from Skanda Purana and the Mathura Kanda of Skanda Purana, where Narada is speaking to Yudhishthira the following: Krishna, along with Balaram, surrounded by the boys of Vraja, plays eternally in Vrindavan with the cows and calves. So there's the manifest pastimes, and then those pastimes become withdrawn, unmanifest, prakat and aprakat. That means when we go to Vrindavan, any one of us goes to Vrindavan, the pastimes of Krishna are eternally going on. Without some detail, one devotee shared with me they had that experience. They saw Krishna and the cows and Balaram in Vrindavan. But whether you see or you don't see, it's eternally. This is Rupa Goswami confirming from Scripture. They're eternally going on, and unmanifest to our vision. But these wonderful pastimes that we hear, they're eternally going on. Here's Balaram or Baladev speaking in relation to the Kaliya Līlā. Today is my birth tithi. Therefore, my affectionate mother has kept me at home in order to bathe me. Subal, tell Krishna that I said he should by no means go to Kaliya's lake today. Jiva Goswami comments, this is not the yearly birthday, but a monthly day when the moon enters his birth constellation, because on his actual birthday, which would be a big celebration, Krishna would not go out. It should be understood that the message, this is the message from Balaram through Subal, could not be delivered quickly by Subal, who delayed going. Otherwise, as on previous days, Krishna would not have disobeyed Balaram's instructions on this day and gone to Kaliya's lake. So there's this description of the pastimes of Krishna don't go from point A to point B in a straight line. It's not a nice metaphor, but it's a practical metaphor. The movements of a snake when it goes from point A to point B. And the pastimes of Krishna are like that. It's not just point A to point B. There's lots of other things going on at the same time, and it's a little difficult to follow all of what's going on. But our acharyas, they relish these topics. And so, notice in the back corner, there's Balaram. Balaram came when a messenger came all the way from the Kaliya lake back to Nandagram, informed Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda that Krishna's in the coils of the Kaliya serpent. Come quickly. Nanda Maharaj hit his arms. I'll take care of this. Mother Yasoda was crying and crying, oh, Krishna. And Balaram was just smiling. Because he knew. In this case, it wasn't Yogamaya was covering. He is omniscient. He knew. Krishna's just having fun. But when they got to the Kaliya lake, he had to physically stop his father and mother from entering the lake. He was very powerful, although he's young. See, he's a very integral part of, in this point A to point B movement of Krishna's pastimes that's very mysterious. Here's a very nice description of another pastime, that exchange between Krishna and Balaram. It's just after the summer season, and they're looking, the rainy season has begun, and looking at all the green foliage in the forest. Krishna says to Balaram, this land of Vrindavan is glorified today. Your lotus feet have touched the earth and grass. Your fingers have touched the trees and creepers, and your merciful eyes have glanced upon rivers, hills, birds, and beasts. The gopis have been embraced by your arms. This is another set of gopis besides Krishna's gopis. And even the goddess of fortune desires this. Now all these are glorified. So Krishna is appreciating Balaram's presence in Vrindavan. Of course, it's his presence that's making all these things happen, but he's honoring Balaram in this way. Now, one of the things about Balaram's pastimes is he was very prudent and consistent. Whenever Krishna would enjoy with the gopis, he'd disappear. He'd go away. He was not present or participant in those pastimes, the pastimes with the gopis. However, there was one time when he was on top of Govardhan Hill, and there's a little temple, as you see, on top of Govardhan Hill, where towards the southern end of Govardhan Hill, because Govardhan Hill is long, north and south almost direct, and on the east side, towards the end, close to the end of Govardhan Hill, there's this temple up on top. Now it's painted pink. And he was looking off into the distance toward the southern end of Govardhan Hill, and he was able to see the rasa dance taking place on a full moon night. And he was astounded. He was so much astounded that he was staring, and it's just in amazement, and his crown fell off. And so at the bottom of that hill, there's a Shila called Mukut Shila, where the crown of Balaram hit the Shila and made an impression on the Shila. We'll see some photographs of that. So we don't go up on that hill because Lord Chaitanya didn't go up on that hill, because the hill is not different than Krishna. But Vrijbasis go up on the hill. So Bhakti Chaitanya Swāmī, very clever, he gave his camera to a Vrijbasi to go up on top of the hill and take some pictures of that temple. And they gave his camera back too. So there's the front side of the temple. I mean, what we see is the back side, but there's the entrance to the temple. And here's the pujari inside the temple. And to one side is the main Shila that they worship, or that he worships, and nice flowers and so forth. Worship of Govardhan on top of Govardhan Hill. And at the bottom of the hill, where we can see, there's the Shila called the Mukut Shila. And there you see there's milk and flowers and other things decorating the Shila. Here's a little bit further away. Here's a little bit closer. There's the mark of Balaram's crown. So therefore it's called Mukut Shila. And here's really close look. Mukut Shila. So that's Balaram and his non-participation in Krishna's rasa dance, although he and Krishna, on the occasion of Holi, performed rasa dance in Vrindavan. Of course, later Balaram came to Vrindavan with Krishna's encouragement to do so, and he engaged in rasa dance with another set of gopis, besides Krishna's set of gopis. But two important pastimes where Balaram was assisting Krishna in killing demons, and that was the pastime of killing Dhenukasura. And you know that story, but I'll narrate the story quickly because we're running out of time. There is the description in this chapter 15. Krishna is pointing to the trees. Krishna is pointing to the scenes of Vrindavan. It's in that chapter. The Krishna and the cowherd boys are in the forest of Vrindavan. They're playing and they're enjoying the forest. Chapter 15. And then they get closer to the tal forest, and there's this fragrance of tal fruits, and the cowherd boys are encouraging Krishna, if you so desire, can you get those tal fruits? They're so sweet. But we're afraid to go there ourselves because we've been told that Dhenukasura is there, and anybody that tries to go there, he kills them. And other Vrijbasis have gone there, so if you would be so kind. Balaram steps forward. He's ready to do this one. And he goes into the forest and starts shaking the trees. And as the trees are shaking, the tal fruits fall. And then that means the tal fruits are available for the boys to get. But when the tal fruits fall, Dhenuka hears the tal fruits fall, and he's very envious. Who's coming into my forest. And he came running out, charging at Balaram. And Balaram knew what to do. He just stepped to the side, grabbed his hind legs, and started twirling him around and around and around and around and around, and threw him on the top of a tall tree. And the tall tree fell and hit other tall trees, and many other tall fruits fell. And Dhenuka wasn't alone. He had other associates. And those other associates, they came running, and then both Krishna and Balaram were tossing them here and there. There's the cowherd boys watching the combat between Krishna and Balaram and the ass demons. And they tossed them on the top of the trees. The description is it looked like clouds on the top of the trees. Many trees fell, and the cowherd boys were very happy to have many wonderful tall fruits. Now, some of you are aware that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in 2 of his books, has described that Krishna's killing of the demons in Vrindavan corresponds with Krishna's removing obstacles for us on our path of bhakti. However, 2 of the demons in Vrindavan were killed by Balaram, not by Krishna. And he explains that means we have to take some special effort, and Balaram will give us the strength to overcome overcome the demon represented by Dhenuka and Pralamba. So he writes that Dhenukasura represents those who are grossly foolish, like hard-working beasts of burden, the donkey. They want to enjoy the fruits of their labor by themselves and do not want to part with them for the Supreme. That's the mentality of being overly attached to the fruits of work and working very hard to get the fruits, but not wanting to give them to the Supreme. That's Dhenuka represents that tendency. He also writes that Dhenuka also represents gross materialistic intelligence, ignorance of spiritual knowledge. And he points to the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Namam Duskritana Mudha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. So the surrender unto Krishna part is in our hand, and Balaram will give us strength, but we have to surrender to Krishna. We have to overcome such tendencies of over-attachment. Balaram will help, but it's something that we must do. That's Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing. And the second demon, Dhenukasura, was the first of the 2 demons. That was chapter 15. And in chapter 18 comes another. And when in the past time with Pralambasura, there was a demon who disguised himself as a cowherd boy. And right away, Krishna recognized, but Balaram didn't recognize. Now how's that? Because he's omniscient, as is Krishna. It was a Līlā. Yogamaya didn't allow him to see what Krishna saw. So the boys that would play and play and play, chapter 18, this is cowherd boys, very happy. And one of the games they would play was wrestling. Sometimes boys wrestle. Do you ever wrestle? Sometimes? Is this your brother? Who wins? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, I had an older brother too, and he always won. But it was play. It was so the boys would play. Prabhupada calls it carriers and passengers. So the one who would lose would have to carry the one who won on his shoulders, like victorious, ride on the shoulders of the one who lost. And the one who Krishna always lost. But the one that Krishna paired up with regularly was Radharani's elder brother. What's the name of Radharani's elder brother? Sridham. Sridham. Sridham would always win. Sridham would say, what kind of a big man are you? You always lose. Because they're cowherd boys, they're just loving equals. They're not demons. They're wrestling, but they're not fighting like Krishna. Demons fight with Krishna. So in this case, there you see on the right side, Krishna had to carry Sridham. And then there's other names mentioned in this pastime. And over on this side, it's Pralamba lost, Balaram won, and he had to carry Krishna. He had Balaram. So Balaram was very happy. He was being carried this way, that way, this way, that way, going for a nice ride. But Pralamba had a different idea. And he was planning to take Balaram away and kill him. So as he was going and going and going, he started getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And Balaram realized, wait a minute, this isn't a cowherd boy. This is a big demon. This is another painting. The cowherd boys are being in the carriers and passengers. So he just bonked him once in the head. And there you see Krishna on the right side saying, let him have it. Balaram, let him have it. There's the other cowherd boys way down below. And one smash and finished. Pralambasura was finished. So Pralamba, according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Pralambasura represents lusty inclinations and desire for personal gain and honor. Now, can somebody read what it says up there on the upper left painting? What are those statements? Kam, Lobha, Moha? Kama, Lobha, and Madha. So those are the enemies of the conditioned soul. Kama, that's kind of obvious. Lobha is kind of obvious. Madha, mad. So those who have those problems, Balaram will help you with those problems, but you have to deal with those also. Pralambasura represents lusty inclination. So there's a nice painting meant to illustrate this. And this is our next to the last slide. This is one of my favorite paintings. I have a special experience, or like experience. In in Houston, there's a sannyas ashram. They have like a building, and the sannyasi guests stay in that building. And down on the ground floor, Radha Krishna, who's a brahmachari, he stays there. So it's just the sannyas quarters. And I have to end in 10 minutes, so I better hurry up. Anyway, this painting is on the wall, and I like visiting Houston. And I have a very special feeling for this painting, so that's why I'm showing this painting. When chanting in that place, one of my meditations is calling Balaram's name, appealing to Balaram to give me the strength to carry out my service. Hari Rama, Hari Rama. Rama, Rama, Hari Hari. And then the Krishna part is the all-attractive Krishna. So, Krishna, please attract my mind to you, because I'm very distracted. Krishna, please attract my mind to you. So it's a nice meditation. And the Krishna and Balaram reciprocate. You can try it. Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki. So we have a little bit of time, not much. Nice to see so many people gathered here this evening. And I hope I've been told that more people registered for Saturday and Sunday than Monday or Friday. Let's see what happens tomorrow. Amarendra, get ready. He's listening live. Any comments or questions? Wait, I see a hand right here. You have something?
How many wives does Nakadundubi finally has?
18. Now, Prabhupada, there's 5 places, including verses themselves, it says 18. I don't know why Prabhupada wrote 16, but I wanted to be, realistic and to say that's what it says in Canto 3, Chapter 1. 18.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, my son had a question he wanted me to ask. Was Dvivida also killed by Balaram?
Yes, but that happens later. This is Vrindavan. We're still in Vrindavan.
Okay. And what does the mean Vraja mean?
Amarendra, send us a text message. I just know what it means here. I don't know what it means in Sanskrit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, before everyone starts leaving, we have a few announcements. So as Ananda Vrindavan Mataji said, welcome. We're very happy to see you all. I'll make this pretty quick. The first is, prasadam is right after these announcements. It's being served in the cultural hall, so I really have to make it quick. Second is, we sent out a welcome email, and in that welcome email, we have a link to a